Dear students, I am going to teach you a very good poem, a very popular and significant poem written by an American poet, popularly known as a New England romantic poet. He is no other than Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, popularly known as Longfellow. The title of the poem is A Psalm of Life. See the spelling, P-S-A-L-M. So it should be pronounced as a psalm and P will be silent. It has got another subtitle, What the Heart of the Young Man Said to the Psalmist. Again you see, this P is silent, psalmist. So, first of all, we shall read the poem. The best way to read a poem and analyze the poem is to read it and enjoy for yourself. Great poems are enjoyed before they are fully understood. You may not be knowing all the details of the lines or the poem, but you can safely and very sincerely enjoy some of the beautiful lines. It has got an appeal. So let me read the poem first. Then we shall just deal with the poem in two different ways. We shall analyze the poem stanza by stanza, and then I shall tell you what are the techniques which are used to bring home the points which the poet is trying to manifest. So the poem is A Psalm of Life. Let me read out the poem. This is a poem which is written in stanzas, 9 stanzas. Altogether there are 9 stanzas, and in each stanza there are 4 lines. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So those stanzas which are having 4 lines, they are called quatrains. 4-line stanzas or 4-line stanzas are called quatrains. So altogether there are 9 into 4, 36 lines. So let me read out the entire poem. Just see how I am pronouncing certain lines, certain words. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers. All things are not like the seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust thou returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to art, and that each tomorrow finds us further than today. Art is long and time is fleeting. Mark the spelling. T and A both are in capital letters. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still, like muffled drums, are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the war's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like a dumb, driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, however pleasant, let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and God overhead. Lives of great men will remind us, we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing over life's solemn main, a forlorn and separate brother, seeing shall take heart away. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any effect, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. So you can see, before you go to the words, the lines and stanzas, I think the way I read out the poem, it has got some kind of impression in your mind that this is someone who is speaking to somebody and he is driving his point home the way that we have to act and act in the present time. Present time is more important. Don't lose your heart. Whatever may be the circumstances, maybe there is pessimism, there is some kind of obstacle, some kind of a hindrance, some kind of difficulty, but we have to carry ourselves forward. There is no meaning in going back, no meaning in living, no meaning in resigning to our fate. So we have to work and we have to see what we can do best in the present. So, in other way, a Psalm of Life by Longfellow. Let me just tell you something about some few lines about Longfellow. Longfellow, I have already told that he is an American poet. Those writers, those poets, those who belong to America, that are American poets of 19th century. So he is a man who belonged to a particular place called New England. It's a colony in those times. Think of, time is far away. That was 1838. So this poem was published in 1838, October 1838, almost 200 years back. But it is read and enjoyed, and it has still its meaning for all of us. So the poem has crossed the barriers of states and is read and enjoyed by many students and many professors, many teachers like me also enjoying our grade by teaching those poems. Alright? It's a very significant poem. So you can also tell that it's a psalm of life, it is a life song. Otherwise, so you can call it, it is giving you some kind of lessons, some kind of teachings, how to carry on, how to lead our life. So in that way, you can say, you can call it a central idea, or you can call it as a moral, or you can call what we learn from this particular poem is that this gives you the art of living, that how to lead our life. Some of the basic principles, some of the lines are so important that you learn something, and if you practice, then you can be a man of success. So, I call it a life song. I call it that this is a poem highly, you can say, didactic. Remember, this is another important word, didactic, in the positive sense, that it wants to teach you. It wants to give you some kind of lessons. So this is a new word for you. You can call this poem as didactic, and you can call it that there are some lines which give you some teaching, some of the lessons, and it is almost a kind of a catalog. One after another, he is giving you, just a doctor prescribing a kind of medicine. Likewise, Longfellow has prescribed certain things for you. How you can be a man of success, how you can be a man of present. So, we have a belief that we are all human beings. We are born onto this earth. So, there is one entry, that is birth. There is another exit. When you die, we go away from this place. So, this particular period for which we live, that is called our lifetime. We just say that somebody was born in the year like this, somebody died like this. So during the 50 years or 60 years or 70 years, the man lives, that is called lifespan. S-P-A-N. So lifespan is life duration. So in that particular time, you have to do, you have to work, you have to live your life. So you are a child, then you become a young man, then you become an adult, you marry, and then you have a family, and you become an old man, and then you die. So you may be very familiar with another name called Shakespeare. Shakespeare is the English dramatist who is not only a poet but also a dramatist. He wrote 37 plays. So there is a particular drama as you like it. So there he has compared this world with a kind of stage. Just like on the stage, different actors, they come and they play the roles. Likewise, we human beings, we are born onto the earth to play our role. The role is almost determined. God is there. He has prescribed roles, just like a director giving some roles to the actors, and the actors they perform their roles. And when a movie is playing or a serial you are watching, then you say somebody is a very good actor, somebody is a very good hero, somebody is a very good villain. So why you say like this? Because at that particular point of time, when the actor performs the role, he is not the man as is identified in his society, but he is performing the role of another man. So maybe a very simple character, he may be performing the role of a villain. Maybe a very docile character, but there he may be performing a role of a hooligan, or a kind of a thief, or a kind of, you can say, a boxer. So likewise, here on this earth, we are playing our roles. So all religions alike, they teach us another kind of thing. That during our lifetime, if you do something good, then you will have a reward and you will be sent to heaven and you will be there with God. If you do something bad, you will be thrown to the abysmal, to the lowest part of the hell. So on that, here, the popular saying or the popular teaching of all religions, they speak that you are supposed to do something good when you are there. And you have to live the kind of life of morality, good things. So, at times, there are holy people or holy men or saints, they say that this particular stay on this earth is just like a kind of a temporary stay. So, here you have to exhibit certain things for which you will be rewarded at the end. But if you do something bad, then you will be punished by God. So God is there in His heaven, and you are on this earth. You have been sent on a mission. You have to perform your role. So here, at many times, the holy people, the religious people, they say that you have to lead a life which is filled with restrictions, limitations. That certain things are bad, certain things you are not supposed to do. You have to live like a pious man. Even if you feel like doing something, enjoying your life, they set some limits that you just cannot do these things. So here, in this poem, A Psalm of Life, Longfellow is giving you certain prescriptions which is not keeping with those restricted life as has been evinced, as has been pronounced by the religious people. He says that the soul, the spirit, should be allowed to live its own life. So then I come to this kind of thing called body and soul. Body is the outer part. Just look at me. I am someone. And since I am a Hindu, there is a popular belief that after my death the body will be decomposed. The body will live my soul. The soul is permanent kind of thing. Atma, what we call Atma. Body is the Sarira, or you can say the outer part. So here the poet says that the religious people, they restrict our lifestyle. They say you just cannot do as you like. You have to lead a kind of a righteous life filled with some restrictions so that God will take you to His place after your death. But here Longfellow is saying, alright, God is our Father, He is overwatching, He is watching all of us. He is there in His heaven. We are here. God has sent all of us. We are performing our role. God is only concerned how we are playing, to what extent we are successful in managing our soul. That's why he says that the soul is as important as the body. And the soul speaks just the opposite. So let me go to the poem so that things will be explained. It will be more easier on your part, more easy on your part to understand. See the very first line. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but. Just find out. Life. He has not stated life is an empty dream. He says life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. So let me go from one stanza to other and tell you first the simplified meaning. So when he says, tell me not in mournful numbers, I have already read the poem. So from that, let us find out these things. How many persons are involved here? Who is speaking to whom? Who is the speaker and who is the listener? So, in a very simple thing, you can say, who is speaking to whom? So, you can say, who is the speaker? The poet is the speaker. Here, the poet is speaking to whom? The listeners, like all of us. Or, here, this is in reference to the psalmist, the religious person, the holy man who has taught that life is filled with restrictions. You have to follow these guidelines. These are the things. So, in a way, you can see that this is a poem, or these are the lines by the poet, and the poem is addressed to the psalmist, or those the religious people, those who are writing hymns, those who are writing holy lines, or those who are chanting religious verses. Each day, each moment they say that life should be led this way, prescribed kind of things, that do this, don't do these things. So, from the very outset, it says, tell me not in mournful numbers. Mournful means sad. Numbers here is an allusion to those lines which are there, written by those psalmists. It is in reference to Bible. In Bible, the religious book of the Christians, they have certain guidelines, do's and don'ts. So he says that don't speak to me in this way, and tell me not in mournful numbers. Don't exhibit a kind of a sad kind of, or can say mournful kind of a thing. Life is but an empty dream. Don't say that life is an empty dream, which cannot be realized. Dream means whatever is unreal. When you sleep, you can go for some dreams. And those are hard to be realized. Dreams, we say that these are fantastic kind of things. They cannot be realized in this life. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. So, tell me not. So, here the poet, or you can say, this is the subtitle of the poem. I have already said, what the heart of the young man. You can say that who is the heart of the young man. Heart stands for all kinds of emotions, all kinds of feelings, all kinds of sentiments, all kinds of things for which the life becomes exuberant, life becomes exalted, life can be spirited, like filled with spirit. So such young man, or a man who is trying to live, started living, he is speaking to the other one. A person who is religious, who has prescribed kind of things, or who represents the kind of restricted kind of life. So, here is a kind of warning, or a kind of thing, or it's a kind of address, that don't tell me that life is a dream, life is unreal, life is filled with a vacuum. In this life you cannot do this kind of things. Don't tell. Life is never kind of an empty dream. And life is coming to an end with death. So don't say that life is without possibilities. All things are not what they seem. So this is almost a kind of a summarizing of the very first stanza. That the who here, or the poet, or the young man who is spirited, he says that let us conclude that all things are not what they seem. So if you can see, you can examine this human life, things as they appear, they are not actually like that. So many things are hidden, many things are in mystery. So that's why from the beginning the poet says that all things in this world, they are not as they seem. There are certain other kinds of things which are not exposed, which are not coming to the surface, or which are not easily understood. And then quite emphatically, forcefully, meaningfully, the poet says, life is real, life is honest, life is serious. This life is not yours, the life is given to you by God, who is watching us. He is there in the heaven, he is watching what we are doing. So in the very first, life is not an empty dream. Here again the poet says, the life is real, life is honest, and the grave is not its goal. So many a times the religious people just say that there is no meaning in this kind of life. You have to satisfy God, you have to follow certain rules, and only when you die, your body will mix with the dust. So you have come from dust, and when you die, you will again mix with the dust. So for a temporary period, you are here on this earth. That's why you are supposed to be guided by God, supposed to do certain things for which God will just reward you. So that's why you have to lead a kind of life with certain, you can say, as per certain rules. So here it says that this poet says that don't feel that from dust you have come and in dust you will disappear. Was not spoken of the soul. In between you find the soul, the Atma, the inner thing. All religions they speak, emphasize on this kind of thing, that this Atma, the soul, is a kind of permanent kind of thing. Your body may decompose, the body is destroyed, but the soul is transmitted from one body to the other. The Christian believes in salvation. Alright, if you do things good, then you will be salvaged. So likewise it says, dust thou art, to dust thou returnest, was not spoken of the soul. So the poet emphasizes on this thing, that your body may be decomposed, but the soul does not allow any kind of death. We have a kind of thing, we believe in this thing, that whatever is earthly, whatever is visible on the earth is subject to death, decay, degeneration. All things that are earthly are supposed to die, has to end, allow. But the poet says that body is an earthly thing, the physical structure, the outer body, the outer frame of a human being, that will decompose, that will die. But soul does not accept death. It is just transmitted from one place to another, from one person to another. With death, there is no death of the soul. So this soul will take another form. Mr. X, when he dies, his soul, the X soul will be transferred to another soul. Another child will born having another kind of soul. So that's why it says that the soul is important. The soul is something meaningful. It is not subject to death. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is a destined end of way, but to act that each tomorrow finds us farther than today. So these are certain lines you can see. Life is an empty dream. Soul is dead and that slumbers. Then dust thou art, and to dust thou returnest, that from dust you have come and you will mix with the dust. So these are certain things which almost restrict our kind of living. If I feel like something spirited do certain things, then there is a kind of thing which restricts us. That if you do this, God will be unkind to you. God will take you to task. You are supposed to follow the lines which are preached by the psalmist or the religious persons. The religious people, they emphasize upon certain rules, life's rules. So here, the poet is going against it. He says that life can be best lived by following your soul, the spirit also. This is not a kind of thing where he is contradicting the preachers, but he says that restriction, or you can say restricted kind of living is not good. Even in this earth, you can do certain things by which you can satisfy your body as well as your spirit. And since God has sent all of us to play our roles, we can also play our roles successfully to the satisfaction of God. So, but to act that each tomorrow finds us farther than today. So, don't just break down, don't just resign, but have a kind of forward movement. From it, so today you are doing certain things, tomorrow you can go, then day after day, that is how life will move. And if you follow your spirit, if you follow your soul, you can also live a good life, a meaningful life. So this is how the poet is advocating. Or here, the heart of the young man, I can say, the heart of the young man is for a kind of living which is filled with a kind of urge that we have something to do, let me do it. Alright? So that's why he says that life should move ahead. We should not be dispirited, dejected, and dissatisfied, and say that nothing is there, life is an empty dream. What is the meaning of life? Why should I labor? Why should I toil? Why there is life? Why there is family? So let not be such a kind of feeling. Let such a kind of feeling should not be there. Life can be lived, and this is how we can live life better. Even when we follow the teachings of the psalmist or this holy man. Alright? So it says, art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like the muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. So mark the lines. Art is long. Art is all sorts of beautiful creations by which we are supposed to make things beautiful. So it says that art, that you can say transcends depth. If someone writes a good piece of poem, someone is making a good piece of sculpture, someone is making a beautiful doll or a kind of thing, a kind of temple or a kind of architecture, then that will transcend. Even if that person dies, those things will speak high about the person who has created this content. So that is how we can say art is not subject to death and decay. Even when the human being or the artist may have a kind of physical death, but the memory of the society, he will live forever. So that's why it says, time is passing. So past, present and future. This is a kind of continuous kind of thing. You cannot stop time at any place of time, at any point of time. So past, whatever has been lived, present to where you are now, future, you anticipate, you expect. But in the name of past and in the name of future, you cannot neglect the present time. So the poet emphasizes on this. The present time is the absolute time. The present time is the most meaningful period where we should have a kind of unrestricted kind of living. As we feel, we should satisfy our soul, we should have enough of courage, enough of determination, enough of, you can say, spirit, or emotion, and we can lead our life. Something that I'm unhappy, don't just think over it. and brood over it. The right kind of word is brood. And feel that frustration is there. Don't be frustrated by going back in time. Don't also be very rosy about the future, that there is something waiting for us. So this is something unsubstantial. So future is uncertain. That's why the poet is urging all of us, speaking through this young man, that you can live your life giving utmost significance, utmost importance to the time present. So still life and our hearts to scout and break. So still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. This is important. This is muffled drums. So take the case. So this is a very a kind of good image. Image is a kind of a device, poetic device, which is used at times to bring home the point of a poet. So think of, this is suppose the drum. So the drum beater is beating the drum. That is a kind of sound. Since there is no cover, then the sound will be very powerful. At a place, if you stand here, you can listen to the kind of sound. But if it is covered by a kind of cover, a kind of heavy, you can say, cover, then you can see that even if you beat it hard, this sound will not move further. It will give a kind of sound which is restricted. Something you can say, not like the kind of unrestricted sound, but it is restricted kind of sound, dull sound. So you can say it's a kind of dull sound. So likewise, he says, life is just like this. So when the drum beater is beating the drum and there is no restriction, it reaches the maximum, you can say, distance. But if you cover it, have restrictions, then it is just like the muffled drums, or which is cover. So life becomes dull if you are having kind of a limited, restricted kind of thing. You feel like doing certain things, but you are terrorized by these religious people. That if you go for this kind of thing, if you don't follow these things, then you will be taken to task. There is always a fear that God will take you to task. So this kind of continuous fear at times becomes a kind of deterrent or a kind of obstacle. I say obstacle, or a kind of good living, a spirited kind of living. That's why you can see the argument of the poet that you live like a kind of drum which is uncovered, and thereby you can have a kind of spirited kind of living, a kind of powerful living. But if it is restricted just like the muffled drum, then you will just have a kind of living, no doubt, but you cannot do anything, you cannot enjoy. So life without enjoyment is just a kind of dull or a kind of muffled drum. You can beat the drum, but there is no sound coming out. So in the walls, broad field of a battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb, driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. So you see, out of 4 lines, the last line, be a hero in the strife, that is important. Likewise, you follow, see the last part of each of the stanzas, you just come to the very first, that, and things are not what they seem. This is significant. This is the argument. Then you say, but art, that each tomorrow finds us further than today. This is again important. Was not spoken of the soul. Again, this is the argument. Then here, that you don't feel like, just like the muffled drums, but you just fight out, you just try to live your life. The art of life gives us sufficient scope to live a kind of meaningful life, or you can lead a meaningful life. So he says, don't lose your heart. Have a kind of romantic feeling, Have a kind of a spirit within you. Just allow your urge, emotions to gush outwards, to open up. Alright? So thereby you can have a kind of a life filled with joy, filled with happiness, filled with glory. And that is a kind of life which God also wants to see. That we have been created by God. God has sent up all of us. We are living our life. We are God's children. And God will be happy if we have a kind of such a kind of living. But not a kind of a dull kind of living. Without spirit, without enjoyment, and without any purpose. So he says, but not like dumb, driven cattle. So here, those people, those who are having kind of a restricted life, they always follow rules. They are compared with a kind of a cattle, dumb cattle. Rules are important, not the way they enjoy freedom. That's why he says that in the vast, broad field of battle, here I want to make you understand another kind of thing, that at times, in poetry, not much scope is there for a kind of a elucidation or a kind of a description. The poets, they use certain devices, tools, or you can say tools, some mechanisms by which, by speaking less, they mean many things. That's why here, the device which is used is called image. Or you can say called here metaphor. These are certain devices which are used. So here the whole world is compared with a kind of battleground. And we are just like soldiers. In the battleground, the soldiers ought to fight to the end. Either death or life. There is no in between. You just cannot raise your hands and move backwards. When you are fighting the battle, on the battleground, there is no back movement or backward movement. Likewise, the poet says that you fight out, you live your life, don't be dull, don't lose your spirit, don't resign to your fate. So he says that be a hero, just like a hero, you just fight the battle. Your only intention is to win the battle. Likewise, he says that, I shall give you another example. Just like think of a kind of a ring or a kind of fighters. Two persons are fighting with each other. Like WWE fighters, wrestlers. Suppose this is wrestler number A, this is wrestler number B. Once they are in the fighting ring, do you suppose that one will just allow the other one to just take over? No. They will fight till the referee blows the final whistle. Likewise, God is just the referee and we are all human beings. Just like the wrestlers they fight, and this is the world. Here, see the kind of comparison. Once the wrestlers are within the ring, they are only to fight. And the fight will stop only when the final whistle will be there. Likewise, we are all human beings, created by God. God is our Father. We are here to lead a kind of life. So we must see that our life becomes meaningful. We should not be shadowed by a kind of restriction, a kind of, you can say, frustration, or a kind of dejection, or some kind of a sad kind of thing. Just say that nothing is going to happen. Let me resign, let me die, let me commit suicide. No. God has never said that you do these things. God will be happy if you have a good life. So, this is the voice of the young man. The young man, remember, this poem was written in October 1838. By the time your poet was only, he was born in the year 1807. So mark, 1807, only 31 years. So he was a young man then when this poem was composed. So in the other way you can say, this is the young spirit of Longfellow which is being reflected through this poem. That this life is meant for living, this life is filled with romantic spirit. We have to have some kind of exaltation, some kind of spiritual kind of a thing, and we should not be we should not restrict our life with some kind of rules, and we should not just brood over and have a kind of frustration. Life should be lively, right? As lively as possible. So that's why it says that if you want to live like a hero, just like the fighters or the soldiers that fight till the end and they come out victorious. Likewise, the whole world, the whole earth is just like a kind of battleground. And we are all human beings who are just like soldiers. So God will be happy if we come out victorious and we will be just worshipped as heroes. So there is no scope for losing in a battle. We have to fight. So we have to, life is to prevail over, not to be swallowed. So there is another kind of philosophy or another kind of belief that not much scope is there for human beings. The religious people, particularly the New England people, those are in the that were the phase when there are kind of restricted kind of preaching in New England, in America, where they say that you have to live your life with a field of restrictions, and only by those prescribed rules you can make your life meaningful. Longfellow is just the opposite. He says that we can have a kind of meaningful life even not following these restrictions. We can live a life by having all kinds of romantic feelings. We can satisfy our urges, we can satisfy the emotions, and still we can also make a meaningful life. And God will never be unhappy. God will be happy that His creation has become successful, and all those people, those who are here on the earth, they are enjoying their life. They are living their life to the least, to the last point. So living your life. That's why he says that we should not brood, we should not have a kind of pessimistic or a kind of sadful kind of a thinking. We should not be frustrated or always feel dispirited. Rather, we should have a kind of lively living, filled with spirit, filled with joy, filled with romance. So that's why this poem is essentially a kind of a positive poem. Alright, positive thinking. Just like motivational speakers, those who give you some guidelines how to make your career meaningful and successful, they give you certain, you can say, guidelines. Likewise, here the poet is giving you certain, you can say, motivational prescriptions. That if you want to live here, live like a hero, fight to the last. The whole world is just like a kind of battleground. Just like the soldiers, they don't have a kind of leisure. They don't think in terms of going back. Once they are in, they have to fight till the end. Likewise, here, the speaker, the poet himself, or you can say the heart of the young man, this is the subtitle of the poem. So there he says that you live a life filled with, you can say, spirit. And for us, we have only one thing at our disposal, that is called present time. So past is dead, past is gone, future is uncertain, the present is important. That's why he says, trust no future. See, future, F is in capital, alright, that has been personified. Alright, that has been personified as if future is a person who is appearing. So X, Y, Z, three persons. X is to be believed. Suppose he is your friend, you can rely upon. Y is not a friend, you cannot rely on him. Likewise, it says that the past cannot be taken, past cannot be it may be a guideline, but you cannot just think about the past. If it is unhappy, don't feel like brooding. Future is uncertain, you cannot rely on it. But the present is just like a friend. You can do things and you can enjoy. And you can still live a meaningful life. That's why it says, I in the living present, heart within and God overhead. So this is also important. This is a belief. Religious beliefs they may not be scientifically sound, but we have to believe in the existence of God, in the creation, that certain, you can say moral order, that God is there and we are here, God is in His heaven, we are in this earth. If you do something good, God will be happy, He will take you to His place, we will be angels, we will be godlike. So he says, trust no future, however pleasant, let the dead past bury its dead, forget the past, act and the living present, heart within. So just like in the battleground, the fighters, the soldiers, they fight to the end with their utmost sincerity, utmost power. Likewise, all human beings, they say, the poet is speaking, that you live your present and having the belief in God, that God is there, He is the monitor, He is the supervisor, He is watching all of us. So, this is an unrestricted life with some kind of restriction, but those restrictions should not be that by which your life becomes impossible. He says that you may lead a kind of a righteous life, a kind of spirit-led life, and that too to God's satisfaction. Lives of a great man will remind us, we can make our lives sublime and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. So I think many times you students who might be quoting these things, or you might have seen these beautiful lines, lives of a great man all remind us, think of our great personalities. Gopabandhu Das is no more, Mahatma Gandhi is no more, Subhash Chandra Bose is no more, Jawaharlal Nehru is no more. So, but we are still thinking, because they have done something good. So that's why it says, lives of great men. So when we read those life books or biography, we still remember that they were good people, they were famous people, they were very popular, and they were also very powerful people, powerful thinkers, statesmen, and you can say Mahatma Gandhi, you still say that he is the father of nation. It's not now. Likewise says that holy men are there, all those good people are there. So through their life, they have taught us one thing, that life is filled with actions. By doing certain good things, you leave something behind by which the later generation will imbibe certain things from you. So likewise says, lives of a great men will remind us, when you read some biographies or some autobiographies of great persons, then we remember the type of persons they were. Even if they were not here, they are dead, but we, because of their good deeds, they have done something good. That is why we still remember these things. Likewise, it says that time present is important. This is the most significant thing, significant period, where through our actions, when we die, we may be having a kind of a death of our body, but our spirit or our soul will be there, that will be transmitted, and people after long period, they will remember our good things. Just like At present we remember Mahatma Gandhi, at present we remember Gopabandhu Das. They are no more, but we remember them because of the good deeds. So it does not matter for how many days we live. I have already told you, lifespan. Somebody was born in the year this, somebody dies at this. So this is the period that we call life. So this lifetime or lifespan may be a short kind of thing. But that is, you cannot just take it as an excuse that somebody dies at the age of this, so that's why he cannot do these things. No. Remember, you might have heard the name of John Keats, the romantic poet, died at the age of 31. But he has written some poems. Those great odes, these great poems I still remember. Likewise, you see that we still read some of the, you can say, plays of Shakespeare. Shakespeare was dead long since, but because he was an artist, a dramatist, a poet, because of those we still remember. Likewise, Milton, the blind poet, we still remember him. So we have our Kalidas. So they are great poets. Whenever we read those things, we remember them. Likewise, the poet is emphasizing on this thing that we cannot complain about the lifetime or the kind of duration that may be long, that may be short, but that we can transform our life something meaningful. That's why after our life, after our death, people will remember us. So lives of great men will remind us. We can make our life sublime. We can make our life noble, and departing leave behind us the footprints of the sands of time. So I can safely say this small poem, Swam of Life, it's a 36-line poem. But that poem was written in 1838. This is 2020. When we go through these lines, we still remember Longfellow. Longfellow, this poet, American poet, becomes a person who is remembered by we students, we teachers, and so many, like all of us, because of these beautiful lines. Like what he says, that footprints that perhaps another selling over life's slain men, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. So again, this poem is giving you another art of life, how to live your life in a fruitful manner. That when you see around, and you see that one of your fellow person is in distress, seeking for help, so you just cannot forsake. You just cannot leave him behind. You have to take him along with you. So he is giving another picture, beautiful picture. He says here that footprints that perhaps another, selling over life's solemn men, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother. So a forlorn and shipwrecked, one who is in distress and left behind, is to be taken, is to be given a kind of help. And then again, you can see that he will start his life again. So line is important. Just like all the M lines of each stanza is important, where that speaks of the central idea of that particular person. Seeing shall take heart again, and he will start renewing his life, start living again with some kind of vigor, with some kind of spirit. Let me conclude the last. This is the concluding line. So in a way, you can also say this is a summary, this is a gist, this is the central idea, this is the moral. That time is the present, that is important. We should not brood over or have a kind of frustration. We have to learn the art of living. Art is permanent. That's why whatever we have to do is to live in present with all kind of spirit, with all kind of, what you can say, good things, so that we will be remembered by our fellow beings after a long, long time. So he says, let us then be up and going with the heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. So these 4 lines are very important, particularly the last, that learn to labor and to wait. To wait for the final salvation, to reach God, and to labor. We just cannot say that life is an empty dream, life is coming to an end, we have frustrations, we have bad feelings, dejection, some kind of thing. But we have to act. Action is important. Work is important. Whatever may be the circumstance. Present time is important. We have to act so that our life can be meaningful. So, in a way, you can call it that this is a poem which is essentially emphasizing on a carpe diem theme. That means seize the day. Seize the day. The day means the present day, the present thing. That we are uncertain about the future, past is there. So whatever is at our disposal, that is present. So you catch hold of it, live your life, learn how to live, and with full vigor and with full speed. So in a way, Longfellow's A Psalm of Life is giving you a kind of art of life. Very positive, very motivational, and very meaningful. Thank you all. I think I have brought my points to you, my dear students. So classroom teaching is better, but you can, I think, I am confident that I have given you sufficient hints, sufficient kind of things, so that you can understand better. Even if you don't understand all the lines, all the words, but it will create in you a kind of imprint that this is how you can also make your life meaningful. Thank you.